Been a minute. We want to skip through the introduction as we wait. Probably going to skip about 5 minutes on into it. I'll get myself together. Mr. Coach Renz. Been a minute since we jumped on continuing our song of what's wrong with the Bible. Doing Genesis 25 and 26 tonight. I'm going to apologize for not doing them more often, as had a lot going on over the last month or so. That's why you guys primarily have only seen a few TikTok videos. But we are going to get back to more of a regular schedule in order to continue to develop and grow into a true actual spirituality, and not the one that's been mandated to us by others. So I got the 8th Fuente, last call. This is the last call. I know it's late, but we're probably going to do these early. Around lunchtime, before lunchtime. Or it's going to be later in the evening, like tonight. So, if you join me, got questions, concerns, thoughts, of course, put them in the chats as we get busy on this. I only got about an hour and 15 minutes before I close up. Let's go ahead and hit it. We're in chapter 25 of Genesis in this series of what's wrong with the Bible. Now, if you are a devout Christian, Jew, whatever, this is not intended to inflame your senses. My videos are, 1, for my children, so that if anything ever happens to me, they have my knowledge. 2, it's for people who have decided upon themselves that they want to question things in the Bible. They don't necessarily, they've been brought up with it. They don't necessarily agree with everything they've been taught. And that's the thing. It's a cultural thing. If you've been raised into something, you'll have a tendency to stay with whatever you've been raised in. But then there are those of us who decide or realize that there is something that's just not actually jiving well with what we see in this book. And to help you further advance yourself, I want to be able to break down some things for you. Some of it's going to be a little boring, but we're just going to go through it. Since people have told me, oh, you need to read your Bible because you're misinterpreting things. You're taking it out of context. Well, we're going to put things in those contexts, but not the one that's been given to us by doctrine, but that's supported by history, by archaeology, that we can see how history has made it into what it is today. So if you recall, if you was with me the last time, I actually had to go and look at it a little bit myself. We ended in chapter 24, where we went through 23 and 24. We talked about the death of Sarah. We talked about Abraham making a land deal, him making his servant put his hand on his thigh and go make a promise to go get his son a wife, and he got his son a wife, and she came along. And they went to his mother's tent and had sex, and they were married. So now we're going to continue. And we're going to be back to Abraham. And Abraham does some interesting things here. And a lot happened. Now, mind you, this whole time frame that we're about to talk about Abraham before Abraham dies is about a 28-year time frame during this time frame. So, Abraham just lost Sarah. Abraham's about 110, 15, 20 years old. He's about 120 years old at this point, or so. Probably more than that, I think. But it says that Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. Isn't that one of the characters? That's one of the characters on that show my kids be watching, Airbender. They used to watch. They're grown now. Katara. And she, now, Sarah just died. Abraham's about a good 120, 130 years old at this point. And he takes on a wife. And this wife is about to bear him some children. So this woman, if she's bearing children, she's probably in the age range of her 20s or 30s, possibly, hopefully. But she's going to bear 6 kids. So she's probably even younger than that, considering the thought processes of the culture back then. Because that culture thought that as soon as a woman starts having her cycle, that she is marriage worthy, that she's a woman. But we don't actually know how old Katara is, because this is the only time she's ever mentioned in the Bible. And she bore him, and I'm going to mess up some of these names, Zimran, Jokashan, Median, Ishbak, Shua, and then Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan, and and the sons of Dedan were Asheram, Letiasim, I'm saying that all kind of jacked up, and Lumamin. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanak, Abida, and Edah. All these were the children of Katara. So Sarah dies, he gets married, and all of a sudden he's able to pop out some kids. Didn't need any help from God or anything like that. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. But Abraham gave gifts to his sons of his concubines, which Abraham had. And while he was still living, he sent them eastward away from Isaac his son to the country of the east. Now this is somewhat part of the course of Abraham. We remember back Abraham had Ishmael. Sarah had problems with Ishmael and Hagar. But he sent Ishmael out into the wild, out into the wilderness with nothing. Sent them out to die. Now Hagar was the handmaiden of Sarah, closer to the family structure. But to his concubines, the children of his concubines, although he sent them eastward, he gave them gifts. He doesn't say what the gifts are. But Abraham is supposed to be this righteous man. So we can say that he learned his lesson from dismissing his son Ishmael with nothing to leave them to die in the desert. But in this case, Abraham gives gifts to his offspring, but still sends them away because he does not want them to have the inheritance or any part of the inheritance of Isaac. Now, and these are concubines. So Abraham gets married, he has concubines. So when people say that, you know, you're supposed to, and this is not a plea for me nor anyone else, if it fits your mindset, if it fits your culture, then that's fine. I have no problems with it. But when people say that a man is only supposed to have one wife, Abraham had concubines, he had multiple wives. Now, we can say that was a sign of the times, and those things changed in the New Testament, but truly they did not. In the New Testament, it only says that a pastor or a deacon is to only have one wife. It never says that the general public should only have one wife. It talks about, people often use that it was only Adam and Eve, but yet, if there's only Adam and Eve, how can he have multiple wives? But soon down the line of Cain, we have multiple wives. So, for a Christian, Jew, Muslim to say that you can only have one wife goes against their own teachings. Because here's Abraham, the father of their religion, with concubines and having children and giving them gifts because they're his sons. And that was okay. Now, this is the sum of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived. 175 years. Now, I remember back in early Genesis, it says that the days of man will only be 120 years. But here we have Abraham, obviously, in this, according to this, living to be 175. So, did God lie? Now, of course, the doctrine, or what people have made up, is to say that people were more natural back then. Life was more natural. They lived a long time, but God was cutting down the years. But he could not have been cutting down the years, because after he said 120 years, some people lived shorter lives, where there is Methuselah and others who lived just as long, 800 years, 900 years. And that is a slow process of cutting down the years. So basically what they're saying is that the God of this Bible, the God of the Torah and the Tanakh, basically is not giving the full description of what he says. If he says that something is this, then it's not actually that. It is some level of that has to progress over time, because the stories just don't match up. Now, if I was writing this story, if I was writing these books, but of course we know it wasn't written by one person, which lets you know it's written by man, then once I wrote that man's days on the planet, on earth, would be 120 years, I'm going to stop everybody's life at 120 years or below. But it seems that the writers here have forgotten. They forgot. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of years, according to their history, has passed by, so they forgot the oral traditions. Must have gotten screwed up in a long-ass game of telephone. Then Abraham breathed his last breath. Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Now, this could mean that he went to his people, but I got a question. Let me go back a little bit. He married Keturah. They never said where Keturah came from. Now, he was very adamant about his son Isaac not marrying a Canaanite woman or any other woman outside of his grouping, of his people group. Isaac ended up marrying his cousin. He had a cousin wife. So, who is Keturah? Is she a Canaanite? Is she a Hittite? Who is she? Did Abraham violate his own standards of what his own son could marry? Because he didn't have any problems with Keturah, but maybe he, and I will extrapolate that he did marry a woman who was not of his own tribe, because the children that she had that were hatched out by him and Keturah did not get part of the inheritance. All of it went to Isaac, except for the gifts that were given to the children of Keturah. So Abraham is not even a man of his own word. Now, this is interesting. He was gathered to his people. Now, did they bring him back to the land of his people? Or did his people just come and visit? And then the next sentence makes me think that his people came, and he didn't go back to his people, because we're going to see in just a second here why he didn't go back to his people. So it means his people came, and his son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephraim, the son of Zohar the Hittite. The field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass that after the death of Abraham, that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt in Beer-lahai-roi. Now, I will tend to think Ishmael only came to visit, only came to see his deadbeat dad die, his death, make sure he was dead, because of the way he was treated, because of the way his mother was treated. And if you remember, it said that Ishmael and Isaac, the descendants of those two, will always be against each other, that Ishmael was a wild donkey of a man. But he came and he paid homage to his father, which makes no sense. Makes no sense unless you're just there to ensure that the bastard died. Because generally that's what a person feels when they've been disowned by their parent, and they've been treated so poorly by their parent and left them and their mother to die out in the wilderness. Now, when that happens, you'll develop a disdain for your father, a disdain for that parent that abandoned you, that sent you out to die. So Ishmael's presence could only be that he's there to ensure that this man is dead and he can't stand him. But he didn't go back to his people. The people came to him because he was buried in the same field that he made a land deal with Ephraim, the son of Zohar, the Hittite, to buy up his land when his wife Sarah died. Because I don't know if you guys, if you saw the previous video, then you know that it was like, listen to me, listen to me, no, listen to me, take this land, I'm gonna give it to you. No, listen to me, let me buy the land. It was all that back and forth when he made the land deal. And so he still owns this land. Isaac gets this land. And then Isaac dwelt in another land. Now, it's going to tell us the families of Ishmael and Isaac. And after we get through this, we can get into some more meaty stuff. We say now this is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's maidservant, which, if you recall, this is a maidservant that Sarah got when Abraham rolled up into Egypt and said, hey, don't, tell everybody you're my sister. Don't tell them you're my wife because they may kill me because you're so beautiful. And I got to bring that up because there's a repetitiveness of using the same writing tropes over and over again, which lets you know this book is not written by a God. It's not God inspired. It's written by people who are using the same trope. Just like you can watch one movie, Armageddon, and then somebody makes another movie, Deep Impact. It's the same basic movie, just reusing it with a few changes here and there. We still do this today because they were doing it back then. So, and these were the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn son of Ishmael, Nebaioth, then Kedar, Adbeel, Misham, I know I'm saying these names right, Mishma, Dumah, Massa, Hadar, Tema, Jatar, Nephish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these were the names by their towns and their settlements, 12 princes according to their nations. Now, if you study Islam, most Islamic sects say that these were the 12 leaders, the 12 descendants of Ishmael that created Islam, that brought about Islam, that they are descended from, which is why they are still part of the Abrahamic religion. Now, of course, we know that from, if you watch my video on the origin of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you'll realize that Islam was a small sect. It was a cult sect in the Levant area when the Arabs were in control of that area. And when Malek and, I forgot the other guy's name, it's going to come to me later. When they warred against each other, Islam was used to galvanize the Arab people. And when Malik won, he then used that as a way to get the people to take over all of northern Africa, and then later on, as the Moors then conquered into the Iberian Peninsula and the Italian Peninsula. But these are the 12 tribes, the 12 leaders, where they basically reference and give authenticity to their history and say that, well, it's real because these people are real. And the towns were named after them. These were the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. What happened to 150? And he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. They dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt, as you go toward Assyria. He died in the presence of all his brethren. Now, here's an interesting archaeological fact here. The time frame all of this supposedly happened was around that 1500 BCE time frame. Well, what we know is that during that time frame, that area, that whole Levant was controlled by Egypt. So how do you live east of Egypt when the entire lands that you are claiming were part of Egypt? It doesn't match up. You see, the archaeology and the true history don't match up to the story. But I imagine when these things were written, Egypt wasn't in control of that land. So therefore, they wrote the story based on how things were at the current time of the writings of this. And I say around 1500 BCE, but no, the books were written around 1500 BCE. The time frame was like 2800 BCE. So over 1,000 years had passed when they're writing these stories. And so for their reference sake, Egypt wasn't in control of that land, but now they put these people east of Egypt. But they would have been within Egypt. This is the genealogy of Isaac. Abraham's son Isaac begot, Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah as wife. The daughter of Bethel, the Syrian of Padan, Aram, the sister of Laban, the Syrian. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. Reusing a trope again. Sarah, barren. Abraham them won't pray. And now Rebekah has children, just as Sarah had children. So we're reusing the same story over and over again. But the children struggled together. Wait a minute, hold on, let me go back. Yeah, Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her. And she said, if all is well, why am I like this? So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. Older, some test versions say your bowels. 1 people shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger. Now, when most people read this, what they don't think about, this is a rehashing of Cain and Abel. You got 2 brothers. They are pitted against one another. They are also in a situation where the older will serve the younger in a sense. In the sense, and it'll get more in detail in that in a minute. In the sense that Abel was the sheep herder guy. Cain worked the land. And we're going to see a similarity in that later. Cain working hard out there in the land. Abel chilling and hanging around the tents. Chilling with the sheep and the cows and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where they probably had cows, whatever animals they had, sheep and goats. But that trope continues. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. The first came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over him. So they called his name. Now most people just think about his hair in this one. But Esau being red, in my opinion, this is my opinion, my theory, my thought process. His redness represents the land, just as Cain was a tiller of the land. So the color of dirt, that brownish red look. So it's a reference back to Cain. And his name was Esau, which means red. Afterward, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So he got married at 40. 20 years later, she has babies, had twins. Now he's grabbing the heel when he was coming out, when he came out. So unless Esau was right there, it's like the midwife is holding Esau, and then she brings out Jacob, and he's holding Jacob, and Jacob reached out and grabbed the heel. What most people infer, what most scholars infer here, is that as he was coming out, as Esau came out the womb, Jacob was holding on to his heel, the little heel grabber, which is still a reference in Judaism as a liar, a person who's a liar. You know, if you're holding my heel, then you're a liar, you're crooked, you're evil. But these people didn't have the same medical knowledge that we have today. If at the time of Jacob's birth, he was holding Esau's heel. Now think about it. Baby comes out head first. But if his arms are extended, the arms are coming out like this. There's no way a baby is going to be born, even with one arm, without killing the mom, with an arm out, holding the heel of the other one as the other one comes out. That baby will break his collarbones. He will split his mother in all kind of ways, blood everywhere. That medically is not going to happen, and everybody survives and everything's cool. But they didn't really think about this when they was writing it, because it was so important to get this heel grabber. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. There again, Jacob dwelling in the tents, taking care of the animals, same as Abel. Esau out there on the land, hunting, but he's a man of the fields. He's Cain. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game. And that's going to be important later on in another chapter that we're not covering today. But Rebekah loved Jacob. That's some badass parenting. You're going to love one child over the other. Now, I know we love our children differently, but to admittedly love one child over the other is jacked up. Now, there's a correlation to this as well. In Romans, I think it's either chapter 8 or chapter 9, God references the fact that he loved Jacob but hated Esau. I want y'all to think about that. Get that in your mind. This is one of those things that make me question the existence of this particular version of a God. This is supposed to be the supreme God of goodness, but yet he hates one person. And this is not the first time. This will happen again. We're going to get to some other people where this God hates somebody, despises somebody. We've already seen it in all the genocide that's already been committed. But he has a hatred. And all these people on the planet are supposed to come from Adam and Eve. So all these people on the planet are supposed to be the descendants of Adam and Eve. They're supposed to be the children of God. They're supposed to be the select. But he hated them. A God of eternal consciousness of goodness would not be able to have hate. You see, this is why I say that God and the devil exist on the same pole of a consciousness that created the universe. And on one end of the pole, you have this good God, and on the other end of the pole, you have this evil aspect of God. Let me not say that. This good aspect of God and this evil aspect of God. And then you have every different level in between. You see, the way we personified or perceptualize God is that God, the all-being, the creator, is this just good God individualized, separated from the devil. Which is why I love my book, Outwitting the Devil, where he talks about that, you can't have the positive without the negative. You can't have the good without the bad. Eddie Murphy did that in Brooklyn and Vampire. Evil is good. Evil is good. If evil wasn't good, how would you know what good is? How would you know what a sunny day is if it never rained? But, fact of the matter is that what we have is a situation where this God is going to hate somebody else. And here's the thing about it. What did Esau really do to God to make him hate him? What did he do? Nothing. Sorry, y'all, got an important message I have to respond to this late at night. Gotta make sure somebody's safe. So, sorry about that. One of the reasons why I've been not able to get this, there's a lot that's been going on in my family, so we're handling a bunch of stuff. And in my personal life too. But anyway, so this guy is going to hate Esau later. Just in the same way these parents are loving one child over the other. Now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." What the hell is the deal with the color red? Therefore, therefore his name was called Edom, again with the red. But Jacob said, sell me your birthright as of this day. And Esau said, look, I am about to die. So what is this birthright to me? I've been hungry. I've been out working. I've not eaten. I've fasted before. What the hell is going on? And this man who's out there in the field, he's so hungry that he's gonna give it. I think he was just just talking trash. Just talking trash. But he sells his birthright. This is a stupid ass story, actually. This is dumb. This makes no sense. You're hungry. You've been out in the field. You're tired. You're weary. Now, of course, your mind don't always work as well as it should during this time frame, but you sell your birthright. I'm sure he didn't mean to actually sell his birthright. And then one of the things we'll find out in a much later chapter is that Esau, he turns out all right. He didn't need Abraham's money in order to live his life and garner great wealth. He did it on his own, like a man should. Not like Jacob. And they say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why are we personifying the worst people? And then the doctrine will say, well, we do that because it shows that God can use anybody. That's stupid. If you're the good guy vibrating at a high end and the devil is over here vibrating at a low end, then the good guy doesn't use the worst to show some kind of redemption. He used the best positive attributes to show you what you need to obtain, what you need to get to. It's a devil's mindset that says that I'm going to take the worst things and make y'all think it's good so that you emulate the worst part, the worst thing. That's what a evil entity does. It didn't show me who did. Oh, there you go. Arrow. Oh, appreciate it, man. Thank you for the support. This is why this didn't jive with me when I started reading this at 9 years old, because this whole idea of this negative person and they become something great, and I don't ever see where Jacob ever becomes great. Yeah, he worships and then he does some effed up stuff. God of this Bible tells him to do something and he does something different. And we're supposed to follow this as an example? It's a horrible example. So Esau sells his birthright. Then Jacob said, swear to me as of this day. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew and lentils. Then he ate and drank, arose, and went his way. Then Esau despised his birthright. And what's crazy about that, what's up, Ramses? What's crazy about that is that it's making Esau look like he's dumb as hell. And that's how he's been betrayed in a lot of doctrine, as he's just a dumb oaf of a man. And this is one of the reasons this book is so jacked up, in my opinion, because it makes Esau look like something stupid, which is why the Hebrew Israelites love to jump on the side of saying that, Esau is the white man, the Edomites, and he was called Edom, and they go to the Edomites, and these are the white people. It's using a form of superiority, of white superiority, by downgrading a person, a group of people. Now, I ain't saying they good to go. They've done some messed up things, some effed up things in history. But he despises his birthright. Who despises an inheritance? This is all propaganda to make Jacob look like he's the great one. So that's how it ends. He despised him. So then we forget about Esau for right now. And in this whole chapter 26, we're going to forget about Esau and then jump back to him right at the end just to make sure you didn't forget about Esau. So this portion, so now we're going to go to 26. And I'm telling you, it's going to be quicker tonight, because I got to start shutting the lounge down in a little bit. So there was a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. So it's a different famine. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. Now, a lot of scholars, so-called scholars, try to say that this Abimelech is a different Abimelech from the one that Abraham rode up and said, this is my sister wife. Abimelech had a dream that the Lord came to him, which I always find interesting. The Philistines had their own gods. They had their own God. So why would they accept the word of the Lord of somebody else's God when they have their own God? That would mean that they don't respect or honor their own God. But that's why this is propaganda for the Israeli people, for the people who become Israelites. It's propaganda. And every group writes their own propaganda. Then the Lord appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land of which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For you and your descendants I give these lands, and I will perform the oath in which I swore to Abraham your father," to which he never does. Spoiler alert. The whole thing about I'm going to give you all this land, and I'm going to make your descendants all over the planet, and you're going to be a blessing to the whole planet. Tell me a point in history where that has actually happened. They to this day do not have the land that was promised. They to this day are not so plentiful beyond the sands of the beach and of the sands and the stars in the sky. None of these promises has ever been true, ever. And yet people hold on to it, and it never will be true. It will never ever be true unless you kill all the other people on the planet. It will never be true, ever. Because from this union, you do not get all the other people of the planet. But he keeps making this promise. Just like we talked about this before, it was like, here you go, now you're not. Here you go, now you're not. Here you go, now you're not. It's like he's dangling this carrot. This God is dangling this carrot. He said, "I will make your descendants multiply as the stars in heaven. I will give your descendants all these lands, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed." And see, they keep saying that because the propaganda is, if I keep you thinking that, then generation after generation after generation, you become loyal, and you think that this is the God that I got to follow because this is the promise. And you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for this promise. Now, if I told my children that I'm going to give them a promise, and I keep making them wait, and then they go off, and I tell the grandkids that I make this promise to them, and I keep making them wait. At some point, you have to say that this is a bullshit promise, that this is propaganda to keep a people trapped under a heel, and to make another people feel like they're great, they're the chosen ones of God. Exactly. Growth is progress. These are all stories taken from other people. You will find similarities in every other people group that came before them. And everybody claimed that they are the original people. Every group, every tribe, and every land say that they were created in their space, in their place. Right? "And I will make you descendants, and bless them. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." No, the hell he did not. Abraham did not keep all his stuff. Abraham lied. Abraham scammed. Abraham had a bunch of wives and a bunch of concubines. He kicked the kid out into the desert to die. Abraham did not keep his commandments. And what are his commandments? We don't have any commandments yet. We ain't got 10 commandments. Moses ain't came yet. We ain't got Leviticus yet. We ain't got a whole bunch of commandments and rules and how you should live, Deuteronomy, all that kind of stuff. We ain't got those commandments. Those are non-existent. It's just the things that he told them. Hey, go kill your son Isaac. Oh, my bad, don't kill your son Isaac. Abraham was foolish enough to go do some stupid shit like that. But did he always, when God told him to go here, he didn't always go where he told him to go. So Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of the place asked about his wife. And he said, "She is my sister." For he was afraid to say, "She is my wife," because he thought, "Lest the men of this place kill me for Rebekah, because she is beautiful and beautiful to behold." You know, the writers of this book could have at least, let the story be old before they tell it again. It's kind of like doing a remake. Like right now they want to do a remake of Home Alone. Well, they did a remake of Home Alone. And what's frustrating about that is that I'm old enough to remember that. A lot of people are old enough to remember. If you're going to do a remake of a movie that was made in the 50s. Do that. Where the majority of people have forgotten about the movie. They don't even remember the movie. There are movies I've seen that I didn't even know was a remake. There are songs that have been done that I didn't even know was a remake. At least let it be that. But about 4, 5, 6 chapters ago, you told this same story. But now you're telling it again. And the people who are indoctrinized into this system will say, That's just God showing you in different ways who he is by having to retell you the same story. No, this is lazy ass writing is what this is. This is lazy writing. That's what it is. Now it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Amalek, king of the Philistines, looked through a window and saw there was Isaac showing endearment to Rebekah, his wife. Now, if Isaac, who seemingly has some brains about him, telling everybody that's his sister, even though it's his cousin, he wouldn't do this in the public square. He would do this in the privacy of his own tent, his own dwelling, his own domicile. So King Abimelech is a voyeuristic motherfucker. He's a voyeurist. He walking around peeking through windows. Abimelech is a peeping Tom. And you know, Abimelech, God visited him and said, "Hey man, you sleep with that. That's his wife, man. You sleep with her, gonna mess up everybody. I'm gonna punish y'all for sleeping with her, even though he lied." So let's go through this same trope again. Then Abimelech called Isaac, just like he called Abraham. And he said, "Quite obviously she is your wife. So how could you say she is my sister?" Isaac told him, just like he told Abraham. Isaac told him, just like Abraham said, "Because I said, least I die on account of her." Blame the woman, which is the same thing that Abraham said. This is lazy ass writing. And Abimelech said, What is this you have done to us? One of the people might soon have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us. How? This is the lazy writing. This is the propaganda. Think about this logically. This is a God who sees Jacob lie about his wife, his cousin wife being his sister. And if a man slept with her thinking she is a single woman, not somebody's wife, then that God would not punish Jacob for lying. That God would punish the people who laid with the woman that they thought was available to be laid with. That's piss poor parenting. That goes back to the same trope of Noah get drunk, pass out butt naked in his tent. Ham comes and see him, tells his brother. He didn't laugh at him like they're always trying to tell you in churches. Pull the covers over him, but then curses not Ham, but curses Canaan, his grandkid. I gotta punish the people who ain't had shit to do with it. I'm not gonna punish the guilty. Let me punish the innocent. You wonder why our justice system is so jacked up. Because we will punish the innocent. How many black people in this country and in other countries, how many people of color have died because of false allegations? Emmett Till died a horrible death because of false allegation. And did they do anything to that white lady? No. They let her go ahead and finish her life and die. No retribution. Nothing happened. No. You don't have to look far for where they get this mentality. It's right here. Right here. So Abimelech, make me lose my fire, charged all his people, saying, "He who touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." Now, there's a little thing in here. It'll tell you in a minute. Because you have to say, well, why would Abimelech then charge his people to say that? What's so important about Isaac? Now, remember, Abraham had cash. Abraham was rich. Rich because Abimelech gave him a bunch of gifts and servants and all this kind of stuff, a bunch of gold, and gave him some silver for Sarah. Pharaoh gave him a whole bunch of money for the same lie. Isaac ain't broke. Rich people get off all the time. Rich people get their way all the time. Rich people get overlooked. This man lied to the king, and then the king tell the people, don't touch his wife. We know he lied, but don't touch his wife. Instead of putting his ass to death for lying. Because he's going to put people to death who touch his wife. But he lied to set his wife up to be touched. Rich people versus poor people. Then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year a hundredfold, and the Lord blessed him. Propaganda again. You mean to tell me in an agrarian society, no one else thought, hey, let me plant some crops, water it, take care of it, and it'll grow? That's how farming works. These were agrarian people. They make it sound like he did something special. But people say, oh, but God blessed him. He didn't bless them. But these people are more righteous than him. You would think this God would switch teams and say, you know, Abimelech and his people, the Philistines, they're more righteous than y'all. But this is propaganda to uplift a group of people, to make them seem like they have always been taken care of, and no matter what they do, they're never in the wrong. The man began to prosper and continued prospering until he became very prosperous. For he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and a great number of servants. So the Philistines envied him. How many of y'all, every time you read this, and as the Bible does so many times, the Christian Bible does so many times, and the Hebrew Bible does so many times, just glazes over slavery? Just glazes over. Yeah, most people won't even catch that. A great number of servants. Now people go, oh, servants, they work for him. No, these are slaves. Slaves. This Bible got all these other rules. Don't mix two pieces of linen. But hey, slavery, that's good. Because this was written in a time frame where slavery was a thing, was a popular known thing. So you can't outlaw it because all the rich people got slaves. And the rich people ain't gonna go for that bullshit. Now the Philistines had stopped up all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, and they had filled them with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you are much mightier than we. Abimelech's a king, but he's gonna say this man is mightier than him because he got some servants. They filled up the well with earth. Now you gotta remember that, because it's some bullshit that Abimelech gonna say later on. He's gonna gaslight this joker. Then Isaac departed from there, and he pitched his tents in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. They already said that. He called them by the names in which his father had called them. You got to rename shit. Also, Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of running water. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. So he named the well Esek, because they quarreled with him. It's interesting how they name shit based on something that happened, but then the word happens to mean what happened. It's like I'm retrofitting this. I'm going back and tightening it up. So they dug another well. He's okay, fine. Yeah, we fighting. And they quarreled over that one also. So he called its name Sitna. Now, if they quarrel over something and he leaves it, why does he get naming rights? Unless this is a propaganda book for people to raise them up. But he gets to name the shit. Why? Because it's written for them. And he moved from there and dug another well. They did not quarrel over it, so I guess they were satisfied with two. So he called the name Rehoboth. Because he said, for now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Now, I've heard pastors say, well, the reason why they dug a well, they quarreled, he moved, dug a well, quarreled, then found another well, and they didn't quarrel, because that was the original place that God wanted them to be. So if you find yourself in a tight situation, you find yourself in a place that there's always negative energy, negative things going on, and you just move on. And you find yourself in that situation again, move on again, and when you find that place of peace, then that is the place that God wanted you to go. I've heard that preached. I find that as bullshit, because something else was wrong there. It's just like a person go get a job. They love the job when they first get there, but then they get comfortable in the job, and all of a sudden they hate the job, so they go find another job. And then they hate that job, and then they go find another job. And then hopefully one day they figure out where they want to be, and they're around the kind of people that they like and the people like them, and then they got a good job, and then they'll say some stupid stuff like, this is the place I've always been. God just led me to this place, and I had to go through these things to get to this place. No, that's not. Maybe you had a funky ass attitude when you was in the first place. You know what? I'm gotta stop cussing so much. Oh man. So the Lord, for letting we shall dwell in this land. Then he went up from there to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake. Now, the Lord appeared to him. It's all capital. Lord capitalized. Straw man name, which means God. Elohim, Jehovah, Yahweh, appeared to him. But later on, we see in the Bible where it says no man has ever seen the face of God. But he appeared to him. How did he appear to him? Did he show his butt, his back, like he did Moses? Or he just appeared to him? And he told him, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And this is a repetitive trope as well. There's always this thing, no man has seen the face of God, but yet these people have seen God plenty of time. So he built an altar there and called on the name of the Lord, and he pitched his tents there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. And digging a well is repetitive, but they're in the desert, so you got to have some water. Then Abimelech came to him from Gerar, I wouldn't call it Ger, Gerar, with Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the commander of his army. It says one of his friends, but in others it says his advisor. And Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you? Gaslighting time. But they said, we have certainly seen that the Lord, capital L, is with you. Why would these people who worship a Philistine God, put their God below this one? It's because to the writer goes the spoils, to the victor goes the spoils. If you win, if you write in the book, you write it to make you look good. So they make it seem like everybody is beholden to their God, regardless of who their God is. The Pharaoh beholding to their God, Amalek beholding to their God. It's always everybody of the Hittites beholding to their God. We see that God is favorable to you. So that means that if you meet a rich person, a person who gets a lot of stuff, seems blessed, and they are Muslim, then Allah is above your God. A Hindu, then Brahma is above your God. So anytime if somebody from a Yoruba tribe, then Odomare is above your God. But this is the psychological bullshit to make you think that this God is more powerful and that this is the one that should be worshipped. But none of these people start worshiping their God. They still stick with their own. But they always make it seem like their God is more, that like they pay homage to that person's God. Right? But they said, we have certainly seen that. Yeah, we have certainly seen that the Lord is with you. So we said, let's there now be an oath between us. I wonder if they put their hand under their thigh. Between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, since we have not touched you, and since we have not done nothing to you but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. How does Joker say we sent you away in peace? Y'all fill this man wells up with dirt, made it so that he can't get water, which water is like one of the most precious things in the desert. But these jokers, they trying to pull a swerve. So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. Now, if he was so much powerful than them, why would he placate to them? Then they arose early in the morning and swore an oath to one another. And Isaac sent them on their way. They departed from him in peace. Nothing wrong with that. It came to pass the same day, though, that Isaac's servants came and told him that about the well which they had dug, and said to him, we have found water. So he called it Shabbath. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. How many times they gonna name this damn place Beersheba? They named this place Beersheba 11 times. Like you ain't gonna know it. And it's interesting that they come after Abimelech leaves. This is kind of typical of Jacob, because I'm gonna make this peace with y'all because I found another well, And I might find out. I don't want y'all to know that. I want y'all to stay in y'all place because we finding some good water here. So it's kind of like a good negotiation, which he learned from his dad when he negotiated that field from the Hittites, from Ephraim. Oh yeah, they forgot. So let me remind you, when Esau was 40 years old, because they completely forgot about this joker right now at this point, but Esau will come back again. When Esau was 40 years old, he took his wives, Judith, the daughter of Beri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they were a grief of mind to Isaac and Rebekah. Why were they a grief of mind? Were they mad because he had two wives and Isaac only had one? More than likely, the emphasis here is that they were a grief to Isaac because they were Hittite women. You see, I mean, not Isaac. Yeah, am I talking about? No, Jacob, sorry. No, Isaac, sorry. Yeah, Jacob. Isaac. I said Jacob earlier when I still meant Isaac. They were a grief to Isaac and Rebekah because Isaac has went and married his cousin wife. She was from his clan, a thing that Abraham was persistent about. Yet Abraham had taken a second wife after Sarah, who was more than likely a Hittite herself. So Esau, merely following his father's footsteps, marries two wives who are Hittites. So here again, we have polygamy. Is Esau punished for it? When we get into future chapters, which is not far away, we'll see that Esau becomes a wealthy man. He has all the stuff of wealth. He has two wives. He's not punished for that. He's blessed in the same sense that Isaac is blessed, right? So we're going to see that same thing go on later on. But again, this is not for people who are devout in this religion. If you're devout in this religion, stay with it. You know, if it makes you a good person. If you ain't out there rob, stealing, and killing, and this book is what's keeping you from doing it, stay in this book. But like many of us, we've come to realize that this book is filled with so many holes, and the morality in this book is less than your current morality. That the morality of the Old Testament God, and the New Testament one too, basically, but the morality of this God is based on the culture of the people of that day, the propaganda of the people of that day, and that you are of higher morality than the book, the writers of this book, as well as the God that they indicate. So how can you worship a God that you have more morality than? You can't. You shouldn't. But people skip this stuff. They have that cognitive dissonance that allows them to not pay attention to the fact that they are more moral than the God that they are worshiping. And they will justify it. When you have that cognitive dissonance, you justify it. You will find a way to justify it. Like, I can't wait till we get to parts where they talk about if a woman is raped. And they will justify it. They will find out, well, that was for then. But then 2 breaths later, they'll say that the God is for all time, that the book is for all times. But then they will justify the difference because culture has changed. These books are based on cultures. They're not based on the reality of a divine creator that is all good. It's based on a creator that has just as many human frailties as we do, that has jealousy and anger and all these other things. And what we should be doing is looking at these stories to see how we vibrate on the higher end of the scale. That our morality is already higher, and how high can we actually go? Can we get ourselves to the point where the negative portions of our brain, the negative portions of our consciousness, our soul, does not ever vibrate to the lowest level of these people, of these stories? That we don't look to them as examples, but we look inside ourselves and see the true kingdom, see the true evidence of divinity within ourselves, within our soul, and we live in a higher vibrational spirit that causes us to act more moral than these people, to treat our women properly, to treat our men properly, to treat our children properly, to handle our finances properly, to treat our people as a people group properly. This is the only purpose of this book should be to those of us who have decided that this book is beneath us, that the morality of this book is beneath us, and that if we have, like, I still believe that the universe is created by a creative consciousness, but not a creative consciousness that's all doing this puppeteering, this Geppetto God, right? And I know that I'm better than this Geppetto God. I'm better than most gods that people talk about that they have, because most of them are horrible. So it is for you to find your own inner divinity and be better than them, way better than them. And most of us are not experiencing the glory of that because we allow ourselves to be subjugated by a system that continues to cause us to be less than our greatness. And where each one of us can become great. We all can become great in our own way, whatever greatness is to you, whatever that means to you. Some people want to be rich. Some people just want to have a happiness in their life. Some people just want to, have peace. Some people want to experience different things. And there's nothing wrong with all of that. You don't measure yourself to anybody but yourself and what makes you happy. Anytime somebody asks me, what is blasphemy? Blasphemy to me is anything that you do that brings you unhappiness. If you are going to church and it brings you unhappiness, stop going to church. If you're following this book and it brings you unhappiness, stop following this book. Whatever brings you unhappiness, stop doing it. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, not taking away anyone else's right to be happy, not violating anyone else, then whatever the hell you decide to do in your life is good. But when you do things that are opposing to that, you are blaspheming your own soul and you are vibrating on the lower end of the scale. And it's all against yourself. So, in conclusion, stop letting culture dictate how you think. Realize that you are the master of your mind, your consciousness, and think in a way that you take in all the knowledge, all the information. You get a good understanding of it, and then you walk in a way that is a blessing to yourself. Let you bless you. You bless you. Don't look for somebody else to bless you. Don't look for some God to bless you. You bless you. Use the universal laws. Cause and effect. Vibration. Correspondence. Mentalism. Gender. Rhythm. Use the laws of the universe and you will find greatness in yourself and how you decide to live. I can't respect a jealous guy for I am not a jealous person. Exactly. You cannot. So, I appreciate you guys. I got 15 minutes to clean up and get on out of here so I can be back in here in the morning. I'm going to continue with this series. So I'm sorry. I apologize for taking so long to get back to it. Things have somewhat calmed down in my life. And I'll be able to, and that's no excuse for not doing it. But I'm back. I'm here. And we're going to keep on rolling, keep on striving, go through this book so that we are weaponized. We are not weaponized. That's the wrong word. But we are confident in our decisions, so that we can increase our vibration, because we're not here to change anybody but ourselves. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.